I'm gonna put a cream on my freaking arms or shoulders or biceps or forearms, and all of a sudden everything's gonna be fixed. It just doesn't make any sense. I'd like to figure out why these things hurt. Yo, so I know that I've been putting out like a lot of clickbaity things, but this one's going to be good. It's going to be productive. It's going to be productive because back when I was an affiliate owner, I would run the elements classes, or I'd have some people run some elements classes, but the same questions would always come up. One of the questions that would come up would be, what were the things that I needed to, be a member of your gym, the CrossFit Gym? Well, today I'm going to answer those questions. I'm going to tell you things that you really think you should look into getting as a new CrossFitter, things that you can kind of maybe think you need, and then things that I think are a complete waste of your goddamn money. I'm going to do it, as promptly as possible. I'm going to show you some examples, and I'm going to give you, of course, my opinion, and you're more than welcome to disagree with them. But, I've had the things, I've seen the things put into practice. I've seen hundreds, if not thousands of people use the things, and I see how effective they are based on what they're supposed to be doing. So with that knowledge, I'm going to start going, and I'm going to lead off with the most important thing, that being a training shoe. So a good training shoe has a flat-ish bottom. And it's always like it's got an 8mm drop and blah, blah, blah. And look at it, it can climb the ropes. And I don't know how much of all of that stuff is important, but the most important thing is that when you're squatting in it, or you're, moving a load through your body in it, you're not getting that rock. So if you look at running shoe or a lot of the fitness shoes, they have this giant squishy bottom, and the giant squishy bottom, when you squat, you see it like rolls in, rolls out. The worst thing is you'll be walking around, you see the really cool shoes, and then the really cool shoes, they've got that huge bump in the back, and they're lifted forward when they're doing just about anything. So you see someone who's trying to learn how to deadlift, and they've got like this huge lifted heel because they've got on these Nike Roshis, and they're super cool and trendy, and oh my god, they're so cute. And it's like, no, just get a flat shoe. Go buy a pair of Chucks. Do it barefoot. That's better than wearing those pieces of crap. So the first thing you want to do is you want to get a good pair of shoes. I like the Nike Metcon. I'm wearing a different pair down here. I have maybe freaking 30 pairs of them because I go through them like water. They're my work shoes. I wear them all day. The Nanos are fine. The Innovates are fine. And they're all good, and they're all much better than the other shoes, and it's just kind of dependent on your shoe. I have a fat foot, and they tend to fit in here for whatever reason. I hear people who say that doesn't work, but don't buy No Bulls. No Bulls are shit. The number 2 thing that you're going to want to get is a pair of weightlifting shoes. So these are my weightlifting shoes. They're like the Nike Ramaleo 3s. They have a lifted back. I believe it's something like 3/4 of an inch. And all it does is it puts you in an optimal position to squat. This will be more important for some than for others. But if you're going to spend time in a CrossFit gym, especially if you're somebody who's going to be there for a long time learning how to squat, and you do have tight ankles, then the lifting shoe is going to be something that's very important. These are expensive. They have cheaper options. They also have inserts that you can put into your training shoes that I just talked about. So that might be a better option for a lot of you guys. And it just kind of depends on how serious you are. But the shoe is the most important thing. So if you had a backpack with a bag in it, you're going to go get a pair of trainers, keep them in the bag, and then you're going to have a pair of weightlifting shoes that you use for just squatting. These aren't to be used when you're doing freaking deadlifts. They're not to be used when you're running outside or walking around on the street. They're really not even supposed to be used when you're doing Metcons. So think cleans and snatches and every sort of squat you're doing, you should be wearing these shoes. Exception of maybe back squats. Number 3 is a weightlifting belt. This is mine. I've had the same exact weightlifting belt since I started working out, which was back when I was 15 years old. Just did a podcast. You'll hear that pretty soon. But on the podcast, talks about my weightlifting career, and this is the belt. Exact same thing. It's freaking $22. You go to Dick's Sporting Goods and you get it. And I like this one because I use it in workouts all the time, and it's easy to like Velcro on, Velcro off. You don't need to go buy the freaking two-pood belt that's $55. It's got all the cool designs. And if that's your gig, get the cool belt. That's fine. I don't care. But I get this one because I had spray painted once, and it was like my thing, but it's cheap. I go through one, maybe 2 years that the Velcro goes out. It's very supportive. I believe it's 4 inches in the back, and it's about 3.5 inches in the front, so it fits a little bit better up front. I'm gonna make an entire video on how to use the belt. If you have somebody out there who's telling you not to use a belt, they're probably not that strong. That's all I gotta say about that. I'll go over more of that in my belt video. Next up is grips. Here they are. Here are my grips. I go through so many grips. I do a lot of pull-ups. I got a tear there. It's because if I didn't have these grips on, my entire hand would be full of blood. So these things help out a lot. I know they have like super special grips, and they've got the wide ones and the ones without the fingers, so you can kind of fit what you want. But I like the ones where it just gets the job done. I'll do most of my workouts with my fingers in the holes. You can do about your fingers in the holes, but it does protect your hands. Don't wear gloves. Don't wear gloves. Gloves keep you from being attached to whatever thing you're using. You need to have some sort of attachment to if you're doing pull-ups or a barbell. And if you don't use these on a barbell, unless some people do them on deadlifts, but you need to have your skin on the barbell in order to have a good attachment, good forearm connection, and then you don't blow out your shoulders because of all that stuff. But pair of grips is important to protect your hands. I recommend everybody gets a pair. These are like $20, and if you're not like me, they last you a long time. The next thing you need is tape. You need tape because you need a hook grip. If you're going to do CrossFit, you need to learn how to freaking hook grip. If you don't know what hook gripping is and you've been doing CrossFit for a while, you need to go get a new coach. Your coach should be teaching you how to hook grip. It should be almost the first thing. If you're not walking around and seeing that you're latching that thumb underneath the bar, painful thing for you. So my fiance Alexis, she doesn't need tape because she never taped her thumbs. Once you tape your thumbs, it's one of those things where you're never able to do it without it because it hurts. But she built up a tolerance. She doesn't need to do it. I think it's pretty cool. Like, good for her. She doesn't need tape. Tape is also good for stuff like this rip, so I can cover it up and it doesn't hurt when I'm doing any sort of bar work. I just cover it up. It's good for really just those two things. But you don't need much of it, just like a roll or two in your bag. Don't be that dick at the gym who's like, hey, you got some tape, and just always ask other people for tape. Have your own tape. And don't get that stupid stretchy shit, like the Magic Genie tape. I think it's the worst stuff ever. Just get like a regular old athletic tape. This is like a souped up athletic tape, so it leaves this weird gunky residue on my thumbs, but I don't mind because it doesn't come off my thumbs when I'm working out. That Genie tape, the stretchy crap, is always just rolling off my thumbs, and it drives me insane. That stuff deserves to be in the don't buy list. But that wraps up the spot where I'm talking about stuff that I think that every single person should have in their gym bag. As a CrossFit person, a functional fitness person, bring that stuff with you. Now we're going into the maybes. So a maybe would be like a knee sleeve. These are inside out because when I wear them, I start them inside out, but these are just like the Rogue knee sleeves. They're neoprene. I believe they are the 5mm thickness ones, so they're not that thick. I have them because if I do a lot of squat repetitions like a thruster, it makes them easier for me. It's not because my knees hurt. If you're somebody who, and I'm going to be talking a lot about this with a lot of the maybes and a lot of the don't buy this stuff, is that if you're in pain and you're buying stuff and leaving it in your gym bag because you're in pain, you're not getting to the root of the problem. So I have these as a tool to increase my performance. So when I squat deep, it bunches up in the back and I can almost get a spring out of it to help me squat a little better. Crappy high rep squatter, I need everything I can get. This helps me. But I am not going to be someone who tells you, oh, put the knee sleeves on and keep your knees warm and keep them healthy. If I could find the younger version of myself and kick his ass for telling somebody that maybe a couple times, I know I did it, then I would do it. But I'm telling you now, this doesn't freaking fix your knee pain. Moving better fixes your knee pain. So another maybe is a jump rope, and I have an RPM jump rope, and I have an RPM jump rope because it's very important to me that I use the exact same jump rope every single time. So if you're in the camp where you're going to need like a super skinny jump rope where you're going to make sure that every single time you're not going to miss due to the fact that you're using someone else's or you're using that standard jump rope at the gym, or when you go to the gym, you don't want to walk up and grab a jump rope that might be a little longer, a little shorter, and all of a sudden you got to figure it out again, then you might want to consider getting one. I like the RPM jump rope. I don't like the RX jump ropes. I don't like the Evo jump ropes. I just like this one. And I like it with the bare seal cable on it. You get the coating so that it lasts longer. And I'm like, well, I've had this exact cable on here for, I don't know, a year and a half or two. So that's a long time. And if it goes bad, it's just a $5 cable to replace. So you don't want to get the heavier one if you're trying to, learn how to do double unders as proficiently as possible. All right. And next up on the maybe list is this guy. It's a lacrosse ball. This one even says Dick's Sporting Goods on it because I think I got 3 or 4 of them for $10. So it's not bad. I use this more often as a dog toy than anything. And I do that because I don't have all these aches and pains and tweaks that people typically have when they need to utilize these guys. Move through a full range of motion. I take a lot of care of my body. I drink a lot of water. I eat well. I sleep a bunch. And those are the things that you need in order to not need to use this thing. But, I need to really dig out that spot in my back. It's like, you know why you need to dig out that spot in your back? Because you're dehydrated. Maybe you slept like a piece of shit. And this is how you sit all day. So if you sit like this all day, it feels really good when you stick this thing in your back. And if you are that person where you need it and you want to use it after a workout, and maybe you have such a history where you've been beating yourself up and you've got to work yourself in the right direction, this is a good tool to work yourself in the right direction. It's also cheap, so it's not setting you back, and it's not trying to screw you over. It is a hard, dense thing that's good to use. So that's why it's in the maybe list. Don't do it as a band-aid. Do it as a tool for improvement. Next on the maybe list is a band, so some sort of a band, and even better would be a TheraBand, where it's those really skinny ones, because I think that activation exercises are actually pretty good. They're not as good as just like a generalized elevate the core body temperature, go through dynamic motion, and then a movement prep. But these are good for, shoulder activations and like a little bit of banded distraction stretching sort of drills if you need to open up your shoulders a little bit. And I always say that if you need to do those things before you're doing certain movements every single day, it's likely that doing those movements is going to lead to injury. I would recommend that you use these in sessions of their own. Yin yoga is very good because you hold positions for a long time. You're exposing your body at a cold state into ranges of motion so that you can now be able to use those motions after you do the dynamic warm-up, after you elevate the core body temperature. So it's like, hey, go do an overhead squat, and you're not here. But when you go do an overhead squat, you're here, and all of a sudden you're just like, oh, okay, all that extra work in my separate session did something. So don't use these before a workout in order to get into a position. That's no bueno. And the last thing on the maybe list is the foam roller. If you're at a CrossFit gym, they should have them. That's why it's at the maybe list. Another reason it's at the maybe list is because a lot of people use these to warm up. They shouldn't be used to warm up. They should be used to cool down. A lot of these mobility tools, and I'll always say this about every single mobility tool, is it is a blood flow introducer. So if you've got something somewhere where it's all achy and you smash it out, one, it's going to desensitize the area. Two, when you move it back and forth, it's pumping blood in there. When you pump blood in there, it does promote recovery. That's a good thing. This is on the maybe list because it's a good thing, but the time and place in which you use it. So you don't just like sit there and roll out your lats before you go do something, because then you end up like me with an elbow injury. I forgot. Everybody falls victim to this stuff. So there is somebody who did some body work on me. He did a bunch of soft tissue work on me, and then I jump up on the pull-up bar and it goes, because it's not supposed to be doing that. It wasn't supposed to be doing that because desensitized. And with desensitized, it allows things to happen the way that my body isn't used to letting them happen. After the workout, good tool, very, very similar to the band that I had just spoken about. Now to the do not buy list. Don't buy these things. These things are just things, they're Band-Aids. Most of them are Band-Aids. Most of them are either Band-Aids or they're expensive Band-Aids. Number one, wraps. I need to put my wrist wraps on, or I can't put this bar over my head. Why? Because it hurts so bad. Like, you know why it hurts so bad? Because you always used wrist wraps. So if this is my wrist, and this is my wrist in a super extended position, and I put a wrap on it, look what happens. I squeezed it, the wrap is squeezing it, and I can't any longer get back into that full extended position. Think about doing that for rep after rep after rep after rep after rep. And every single time you're doing something, you're no longer giving your body the option to improve its positions. So if you're going overhead and you're locked in every single time, it's like, yeah, it might feel better every single day, but you're never going to be able to use anything without it. Time and place for everything. Say a 1 rep max lift and you need a little extra tension. Once in a blue moon that happens, but every single day, if you're like, oh, I'm going to do handstand walks, I need my wrist wraps. I'm going to do some squats, I need to wrap up my knees. It's like, well, you're wrapping your knees up every single time. If you wrap your knees up every single time, they're no longer a tool, they're a crutch. You can have them in the bag, and I know they're cheap, and I know they're tools for improvement, but I see too many people who are using them as, well, my wrist hurt, here's my wrist wrap. If you think that's you, I can't really save you. You're kind of screwed. You work your way out of it through exposure. And my general rule of thumb is a scale from 1 to 10. You want to stay away from like the 7, 8, 9 range of pain, but you want to work within the 1 to 6. So if you're doing like some push presses and your wrists hurt, or some jerks and your wrist hurt, and like you do your first set, it's a 2, you do your first set, it's a 4, you do your third set, it's a 3 or a 5 out of 10. You want to stay under a 7 out of 10. When you get to the 7, 8, 9, then you're getting into like the dangerous range where you could injure yourself. But if you stay in the lower ranges, you're giving yourself the body to say, hey, I need to make a change. This isn't comfortable. How do I adapt? You adapt by getting into a larger range of motion on the wrist. That's your best bet. You do that for a couple of months and then no longer needing the wrist reps. But it does take time, and it does take the want to be a better human. Why we do CrossFit in the first place, yeah? Next up on the do not buy list, and it's weird that I have all these do not buy things, is the Hypervolt. And it's not the Hypervolt, but it's also the Theragun. It's any of these massage guns. Not so much that I don't think you should have one, because Andrew, you've got one. The fact that, and look at, there it goes, it's on, oh, it feels good. It's how people use the things. So you walk into the gym, and you're like, oh, my biceps are sore. And all of a sudden, you're just working out your biceps. It's like, that's not the time and place to use the Hypervolt. Oh, my traps are sore. I'm like, yeah, I know this feels good, but do this in a separate session. Like, it's a recovery tool. And you know what else is a recovery tool? Working out in general. So if you come into the gym, I've already spoken about this, and let's say your chest is sore and you're hitting your chest with the massage gun, you're desensitizing the area. It's sore for a reason. You did some work, your chest is sore, your body's sending you a signal saying, all right, man, this is sore, this is tight. You don't want to take this thing and hammer the absolute hell out of it, so it's like sending signals and shutting those signals down. The reason I have a couple of these is because I'll put this one in my car, and when I'm driving around, I hit my forearms. And I'm trying to, introduce some blood flow into the forearms. As I said, these are good for blood flow introduction. Or I'll be sitting there watching a movie, and I'm watching a movie. Maybe I'll hit my freaking legs with the gun. That's the type of way that you want to use these. And these are good, but they are expensive. So the reason that they're on the don't buy list is because I think that they're not really necessary. You can do things like ride the bike. The bike will do it very similar, like introduce blood flow. And it's cheaper. But if you want this, go get one if you use it the right way. This next one right here. Advil, ibuprofen. I know people who would walk into the gym and they'd be like, yeah, I took 5. Why are you here? Like, what's going on? It's like, well, this hurts, that hurts, and this hurts. It's like, well, you know why all these things hurt? Because you don't freaking fix it. And you take stuff like this. This is just like the car that you see driving down the expressway with the rear view mirror or the side view mirror duct taped onto it. And they don't want to take it into the body shop to get it fixed. They don't want to spend money. They don't want to put the time into that. So they take the ibuprofen and all of a sudden, dude, I can see out the side view mirror again. That's exactly how this stuff works. The NSAID brings down the inflammation in your body and, I feel great again. And again, it's a tool. It's good. I mean, they're taken all over the world. Used to alleviate pain. If you got pain, you take that, you got a headache, you take that, it goes away. But if you're doing it every day and you have a headache every day, there's something else going on in there. Just like if you're taking that in the gym every day, you're probably moving like a piece of shit. And if you're moving like a piece of shit, you're always going to feel bad. And if you always feel bad, you're always taking ibuprofen, you're heading 100 miles an hour straight into the dumpster. And you're just going to, you're going to die in there. And then you're going to burn out and you're never going to work out again. So steer clear of this unless you're taking it, 2 pills once every 2 months. And that's it. The last one I don't even have, but I hate it. And I don't know if this is just a thing with me, but I don't like the smell of like an Icy Hot or a balm. It's just, it feels good. I'm going to put it on before my workout. Why does everything always hurt? Why does it always hurt? Like, ask yourself the question about why it always hurts and why you always going to put freaking Icy Hot on. It's like, well, my legs hurt. I'm going to put Icy Hot on my legs. And I understand that it feels good. I don't, because I don't use it. I've never used it. It's freaking disgusting to me that I'm going to put a cream on my freaking arms or shoulders or biceps or forearms and all of a sudden everything's going to be fixed. It just doesn't make any sense. I'd like to figure out why these things hurt. It's like, if this hurts, okay, I'm going to, try to do something at this point in time. And maybe I won't do this movement. Like, you're asking me to do this movement? Like, why do I got to do it? Am I being paid for it? Am I in a competition where it's required of me? And usually the answer is no. So if it were in terms of an open workout and all of a sudden I got to go do bar muscle ups and my elbow hurts, which it does, it's like I've been working towards getting this freaking elbow straight for a while now. And in the terms of the Icy Hot, what I think is it's like, oh, the elbow hurts. All right, good to go. Let's do some bar muscle ups. Like, on this last one, I had to, make another clip because I freaking forgot about it. Well, how could I forget about compression boots? Those giant Normatec things that cost you an arm and a leg, and you can put them on and they blow your legs up and then they let loose. And then they
squeeze really tight and then let loose.
And you just sit there. And so how long you want them for? You want them for a half hour? I'm going to sit there and watch TV for a half hour. It's the lazy man's way to recover if your legs are very sore. And I suppose if you've got the money to throw at them, or if you're serious enough and you want the Normatec boots, that's good. Like, go get the Normatec boots. Maybe I'm jealous because I don't have a pair of Normatec boots. And if I want to recover, I got to go sit on the bike, or I got to go do some air squats. Or maybe I just have to live with my soreness because, maybe I did too many squats or lifted too much weight. But that's my fault. And I don't think that it's something that anybody should have, that being a pair of $3,000 moon boots that you put on your legs that just squeeze to, constrict the muscle and then let it loose so that the blood can flow back in. It's just the theme that we've been following. It's the blood flow. So they squeeze and it's just like a sponge and it rips the blood out of you and then it lets it go. So it's like, oh, hey, the blood comes back in. Things that I don't think that you need. And that wraps up the don't buy list. And I'm sure there's some things that I missed on here, but this is just a quick, I thought if people walked into the gym, they're like, hey, should I get this? Should I get that? This is my video to those people that I wish I could have given to everyone at my affiliate back in the day. Buy a pair of shoes, don't buy a Hypervolt. You should have a belt. You should use a belt if you want to be strong. You need to be educated on how to use a belt. I'm going to make a video on how to use a belt. But wrist straps and voodoo floss, it's like, no, there's someone out there probably making some money on it, and they're probably keeping you from hitting your full potential. I hope you liked my video. I'm having a good time with these, I keep telling you. So this one, I think, is something you can share with your buddies. This is an educational video. This is one that I think can stand the test of time. So it's not like those videos where it's like, oh, 22.2 is so garbage. This is one where I don't know what to get. I just started CrossFit. Hey, you know a buddy just started CrossFit. Send them this video. So like, subscribe. I hope to make maybe 2 or 3 of these a week where they actually have some sort of value to you. The more people on board, the more likely I am to keep on doing this stuff. And until then, Andrew Hiller, bye-bye.